I think the basic reason why Christian faith meets with opposition in the world and even finds resistance in our own hearts is that true saving faith always brings with it the reshaping of our heart and mind so that it is no longer we who live, but Christ who lives in us. But what does that even mean? It is no longer I who lives, but Jesus who lives in me. I mean, there is in every human heart an intense and powerful love for the praise of man. I mean, just as naturally as apples fall from a tree, human beings gravitate towards ideas and actions which make them look great and resist ideas and actions which make them look small. We are a prideful beast, period. Therefore, apart from the powerful grace of God overcoming our natural disposition to pride, we always resist the coming of faith into our lives. Because by faith, Christ takes such a dominant control of our lives and our minds, and he reshapes us so much into his image that we can no longer boast in anything good that we do. I mean, we are forced into a place of obscurity. And guess what? I don't like not being known. I want the glory. It does not appeal to the natural mind to be so transformed by Christ that we must give him all the credit for all the good that we do. This is the fundamental stumbling block to the Christian faith, which is what Jesus meant when he said in John 5:44, "How can you believe who receives glory from one another and does not see glory that comes from God?" I mean, our love for the praise of men hinders us from trusting Christ because the purpose of Christ is to remove every ground of boasting in us and put it all in God. He did this once by accomplishing our redemption on the cross without our help, and he continues to do it by applying that redemption to our hearts without our help. I mean, by his sovereign grace, Christ, he paid our debt. He paid our debt to God. And by his sovereign grace, he is putting his own form upon our lives so that we will say with the psalmist, "Not to us, O Lord, not to us, but to your name we give glory." Saving faith is resting in that sovereign work of Christ, past, present, and future, which gives all glory to God. Therefore, in one sense, saving faith is the easiest thing in the world, as easy as being clay in the potter's hands. But in another sense, it's the hardest thing in the world because human clay hates being shaped and formed by Christ so that he gets all the glory for what we become. I mean, how true is this? We want Christ, but we don't want to let go of control. So this question is, will you let go? I mean, without letting go, Christ can't reshape us. Are we becoming so much like Christ that we are not conformed to this world, but transformed by the renewing of our mind? I mean, has Jesus gotten a hold of us and began that process of that transforming? It doesn't take a genius to see that when Christ shapes and forms our inner life after his own image, our freedom from the law, it will not result in lawless self-glorification. On the contrary, it is the power of Christ living and reigning and forming himself within us that frees us to the delight in God's will. We are freed from that burden of the law when we are given the power to fulfill it from within. And what happens when Christ is formed in us, that is amazing. So how is Christ really formed in us? It is by faith. It is really quite simple. The Son of God comes and shapes us from within if we rely on him to come and shape us. The Son takes shape in those who abandon themselves to him. Jesus forms himself in the lives of those who will let go of all the forms of life in which they have shaped on their own. Christ will take shape in the life of a person that is willing to become putty in God's hands. So are you willing to become putty in God's hands? Will you allow him to take your mess and clean it up? If so, Christ will press the shape of his own face into the clay of our heart and our soul and will make us more like him. It is in this process that the world will no longer see you and me, and they will see Jesus. And this, my friends, is how the world will change. We need more Jesus and less of us.